Okay, let's get into this. You might think, all THC is pretty much the same thing. Maybe you figure it's either legal or it's not. Simple as that. Or maybe you assume anything to do with cannabis is just completely off limits. But what if I told you there's this whole complicated picture, almost like a maze, and there are these like sneaky legal compounds out there that are maybe surprisingly pretty risky, especially if you don't know what you're looking at. So today, our mission in this deep dive is really to untangle all that. We're going to break down two specific types of THC. The famous one, Delta-9, and then its cousin Delta-8, which causes a lot of confusion. We'll look at their legal status, which is frankly kind of wild, their effects, and maybe most importantly, the big safety issues you really need to know about to keep yourself and maybe your family safe.
Yeah, what's so interesting here is exactly that paradox you mentioned, how just a tiny chemical difference, almost nothing, can lead to completely different legal situations and different safety concerns. It's not just some, science thing. It creates a real need for people to get clear on this stuff.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's start with the one most people already kind of know. Mm-hmm. The OG Delta-9 THC. This is the stuff in regular marijuana that people link with getting high, right? The effects, dry mouth, maybe red eyes, heart beats faster.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for some people, it can trigger anxiety or even paranoia. It's that sort of classic marijuana experience.
Mm-hmm. And for ages, its legal status seemed pretty cut and dried, federally anyway, here in the U.S. If that Delta-9 THC comes from what we generally call marijuana, it's federally illegal. Simple as that. It's right there, Schedule 1 on the Controlled Substances Act, which, just for context, puts it in the same box as things like heroin or LSD. So yeah, federally, a definite no-go if it's from marijuana.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, this catches so many people off guard. Delta-9 isn't always illegal. There was this huge bill, the 2018 Farm Bill. Now, before this bill, even hemp, the cannabis type that doesn't really get you high, was basically lumped in with marijuana. But the Farm Bill totally changed the game for hemp. It created a legal definition. Hemp is cannabis with 0.3% or less Delta-9 THC by dry weight. Think of it like a super strict limit. So if the Delta-9 THC is in hemp and it stays under that tiny 0.3% line, then believe it or not, it's actually federally legal.
Right. And that's the distinction, the critical piece that gets misunderstood all the time. It's why you suddenly see these hemp-derived Delta-9 products popping up everywhere, even in states where marijuana itself is still illegal. If you connect the dots, it means a product can have Delta-9 THC, the exact same compound, and be sold legally across state lines if it comes from hemp and stays below that 0.3% concentration. So it's not just what it is, it's where it came from and how much is in there. That's what determines if it's federally okay. It's a subtle legal line, sure, but it's changed everything and definitely confused a lot of folks.
Okay, so we've kind of walked through Delta-9. Let's switch gears now to its close relative, one that's really exploded onto the scene lately. Delta-8 THC. Chemically, they're super similar, Delta-8 and Delta-9. The main difference is just this tiny schist in a chemical bond. It's on the 8th carbon atom in Delta-8 instead of the 9th like in Delta-9. But that small change seems to make a difference in how it feels. People often say the effects are milder, maybe smoother, a less intense high than Delta-9. You hear it called diet weed sometimes, right? Because it seems less likely to make people feel anxious or paranoid.
And the big question, is it legal? Well, the short answer is technically yes. This goes back again to that 2018 Farm Bill. Because Delta-8 is chemically different from Delta-9, it doesn't get counted towards that key 0.3% Delta-9 limit for hemp. So if the Delta-8 is made from legal hemp under federal law, it's allowed. And actually, this has been tested in court. Federal courts have generally looked at it and said, yeah, that interpretation holds up, which is why you can find Delta-8 products sold so openly, gas stations, online, vape shops even, where regular marijuana is banned. It's in this weird legal gray zone.
That's a huge difference, isn't it? Something that gives you a milder high, and it's technically legal federally. Courts have even kind of confirmed it. It almost sounds, too good to be true. You can just hear people thinking, okay, what's the catch? If it's legal, it's got to be safe. Yeah. Someone's checking this stuff.
Yeah.
Is assuming that actually dangerous here? What is the catch? Are there problems we're not seeing?
And that's exactly where this whole thing gets really serious. Genuinely alarming, actually. The massive overriding issue with Delta-8 products is that they are almost completely unregulated. Think about regulated marijuana markets where they exist. They have testing rules, quality control, stuff to protect consumers, right? Like food or medicine. Delta-8, it mostly lives outside all of that. There's no federal body consistently checking how it's made, what's on the label, or if it's pure. And that lack of oversight isn't just a small issue, it's a profound safety risk. Why is it unregulated? Well, it mostly comes down to how it's made. See, Delta-9 is naturally in marijuana in decent amounts. Delta-8, it's only in tiny, tiny traces in natural hemp. So to get enough Delta-8 to sell, producers don't just extract it. They usually synthesize it. They take CBD, which is plentiful in hemp, and use chemicals, acids, solvents to chemically change it into Delta-8 THC. Now, if this isn't done carefully by chemists who know what they're doing in a proper lab, and if the final stuff isn't cleaned up and tested properly, you can end up with nasty leftovers. We're talking residual solvents, maybe unreacted acids, heavy metals from the equipment, or even other weird, potentially harmful cannabinoids created by accident during the process. So the gummy or vape you buy might have a whole cocktail of stuff you really don't want.
Wow. And the health risks from these unregulated, potentially contaminated products, they're real. They're serious. I mean, the FDA, the CDC, they've both put out warnings, big alarms about Delta-8. They've gotten tons of reports of people having really bad reactions after using these things. And we're not talking minor stuff here. We're talking scary symptoms, hallucinations, people vomiting uncontrollably, extreme anxiety, panic attacks, even people losing consciousness in some cases. These are serious medical events.
Yeah, and get this statistic, this is really alarming. Between January 2021 and February 2022, so just over a year, Poison Control Centers got over 2,300 calls related specifically to Delta-8. And just tragically, a lot of those calls involved kids. You can just picture it, right? A little kid sees some colorful Delta-8 gummy that looks exactly like candy. They eat it. These things are often packaged to look like popular snacks. It's incredibly dangerous for children who have absolutely no idea what they're putting in their mouths. It makes you ask, doesn't it? How aware are we really as parents, consumers? What might our kids grab off a counter thinking it's harmless?
Especially when it's sold right next to, chips and soda. The responsibility, no, it falls on us.
Exactly. That's the bottom line here. What you really need to take away from this, people often think, oh, THC is THC, or if they sell it at the store, it must be okay. But the reality, like we've broken down, is that Delta-8 is in this weird, sneaky legal spot. And it comes with real risks because it's unregulated and could have harmful contaminants. Delta-9, meanwhile, is mostly federally illegal, unless it's from hemp and under that super low limit. Understanding that difference isn't just, interesting trivia. It has serious health implications.
Okay, so with all this complexity, all these potential hidden dangers, what do you, the listener, need to do? How do you protect yourself and your family? When you see any product labeled THC, you've got to basically become your own detective. Don't just trust it because it's for sale. You need to ask some really critical questions. First, which THC is it? Is it Delta-9? Or is it this Delta-8 we've been talking about with its specific risks? Knowing the type is step one. Second, where did it come from? Is it from legal hemp? That's key for its federal status.
Right.
Or is the source murky? Third, and this is maybe the most crucial one for safety, is it tested? Like, has an independent third-party lab checked what's actually in it? Check the potency, check for contaminants. Can you see those lab results? And finally, always ask, could this stuff hurt me? Could it hurt my kid? That question needs to be front and center.
Yeah, and for Delta-8 products in particular, given everything we've discussed, the production methods, the lack of rules, you absolutely have to look for safety signs before even thinking about buying. Look for products that clearly say they've been third-party lab tested, and don't just take their word for it. You should be able to actually see those results. Often there's a QR code or a website link on the package. Those results should show more than just THC levels. They need to show tests for things like heavy metals, pesticides, leftover solvents, mold, all the potential bad stuff. Also, look for clear ingredient lists. Everything should be listed, not just THC. And critically, if you have kids around, make sure any product like this is in proper certified child-resistant packaging. That's not optional, it's vital.
That really is the core problem, isn't it? Delta-8, even though it's technically legal, it's kind of the Wild West out there. It's a legal loophole without strong safety nets or consistent rules. And that unfortunately puts the burden, the responsibility to figure this all out and stay safe right on your shoulders, the consumer. It's really up to you to get informed, be careful, and make choices that protect yourself and your family. So just to quickly recap what we covered today, we've tried to shine a light on the key differences. Delta-9 THC, generally illegal federally, unless it's from hemp and below that tiny 0.3% concentration. Delta-8 THC, technically legal if it's from hemp, but, and this is a big but, it comes with significant, often hidden risks because it's largely unregulated. Every consumer needs to be really aware of that.
And thinking about those health risks we talked about and these legal gaps that let unregulated products onto the shelves, it raises some big questions, like what responsibility do the companies making this stuff really have for safety, beyond just meeting the bare minimum legal requirements, if any? And what about the people making the laws? What should they be doing to create clearer rules, better oversight for this market that's changing so fast? And maybe looking ahead, what does all this tell us about how we should handle new compounds that might show up down the road, often before anyone's had a chance to figure out if they're safe?
Yeah, those are really powerful questions for all of us to think about as we deal with this changing landscape. Making informed choices, using knowledge like what we've hopefully shared today, that's really key to protecting ourselves and our families from these kinds of unexpected dangers. Thanks so much for joining us for this important discussion.